And I'm here today with a certain individual here. This is Jim Miller.
Hello. Thank you for coming.
Jim, who are you?
I am the storyboard director on My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic.
Come on.
Woody, the director, was supposed to be here with me today. Unfortunately, he got stuck in a long border wait, and there was an accident on the highway. He was hoping he could be here by 2:30, so if he makes it in time, he's just going to run right in. If not, he will be around, wandering around the con for the rest of the weekend, so if you see him, grab him. He's got a funny mustache and a goatee.
I know the feeling.
And he sounds like bra-da-da-da-da. So you'll be able to tell who that is.
All right, so real quick, just to start off, why don't you let the crowd here know and all the people watching on the live stream what it is exactly that a storyboard director does?
Well, if I knew, I would tell you.
Okay.
Basically, I'm the go-between between the directors and the storyboard crew. I have a very excellent storyboard crew, some of whom are around the con today. If you see them, you should bug them. So we sit down with the directors when we get a script and break it down and talk about how we want to work the story out and the jokes and stuff we want to put in. And then the storyboard artists go off and do the board, and I'm there to help them if they run into problems with setting up shots or a joke that's not working, or any other logistical problems we might run into. Thankfully, the board team I have is so incredibly amazing that my job is pretty easy.
Well, I think one thing that's kind of interesting about what storyboarders do that, when I was talking to other storyboarders around, was that you guys put in a lot of the visual jokes that aren't in the actual script. So, for example, there was mystery on the Friendship Express, and there was a scene where Twilight and Pinky are switching hats.
Yes.
That's something that the storyboarders put in.
Yeah, that's something we talked about. That was a joke that Tom Sales came up with, the guy who boarded that sequence. And we just, when we're doing the boards, we try to entertain ourselves. Obviously, the main focus is to appeal to the demographic, the young girls, but it's awesome that all of you enjoy it as well. But we're trying to entertain ourselves when we do it, and if it makes us laugh and we think it's funny, hopefully that translates into jokes that you guys and the fans and everyone who watches the show think are funny.
Well, I think that, it's clearly translated well. The show's hilarious. Anybody here disagree with that? I don't think so. You guys enjoy the visual jokes? Just a little bit?
Right on.
Well, so I wanted to, and by the way, before I go too far into this, I do have a couple of quick announcements. I forgot to mention they're gonna yell at me. But
now you're in trouble.
After this panel is done, they want everybody to clear out because the next panel is going to be starting pretty soon afterwards. So when this is done, which should be around 2:15, if you guys can safely and orderly, in a safe and fashion, clear the room. Also, I did want to let you guys know that there is going to be a Q&A section. So right there is a wonderful microphone, and right there is one of my fellow EFR staffers, Cowboy Dave. Towards about, I would say, halfway through this, we're going to start taking questions from the crowd. He is going to filter through and just make sure that they're good questions, questions that Jim here can answer. Because, believe it or not, he can't talk about Season 3.
Surprise, surprise.
So if you come up and ask, about Season 3, what would your response be?
I'll either go or I'll make up some smart-ass answer that's a total lie.
Which almost makes me want to ask about Season 3.
Go ahead. See what happens.
So, Jim, what happens in Season 7? Okay, so.
And also, when you ask questions, I managed to score some DHX swag. And it's not a lot, but if you ask some good questions, I have some Studio B lanyards and a DHX backpack and a water bottle. So if you want those things when you ask your questions, and if they're good ones, you can get some.
So that means, one, if you want some DHX swag, you have to ask a question. But two, it's got to be really good, so make sure that you.
The better questions will get the better stuff.
You say, I don't know, some of these guys might actually want you to just go at them a little bit.
That's fine.
That's fun. It's good. Well, I wanted to take a step back then. You've actually had a long career already before MLP in storyboarding, and I know that you worked on Ed, Edd and Eddy.
I did.
What other show? Yeah.
Thank you.
And did you work on any other shows that these guys might have heard of?
Well, I was out on Ed, Edd and Eddy for 10 years, so that's the main thing. And actually, a lot of the people who work on ponies are ex-Ed, Edd and Eddy people. And the only other things I've done that people might have seen is I did a season of Kid vs. Kat. I think it's on Disney XD. Oh, there's a plank back there.
That's Joe Stevens from the Equestrian Inquirer, and he's your biggest fan. Yeah, bring it up. Yeah, this is a little bit of behind the scenes stuff here that the Equestrian Inquirer crowd came out of actually the Gravy Inquirer, and Joe Stevens here is one of the biggest Ed, Edd and Eddy fans in the world. So there you go.
Johnny 2x4's sidekick.
Give him a mic. All right.
What's that, Plank?
I think we could use some wise words from Plank right now.
All right, everyone, just pay close attention. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I agree. He always knows just what to say.
Okay, that's enough. You're my cog.
Well, so you worked on all these different shows. Ed, Edd and Eddy has a completely different visual style than Pony. And I wanted to ask what the difference was for you in storyboarding for the two different shows, given the styles and the approach to the two different programs. It's completely different.
Well, for me, surprisingly enough, my approach isn't that different. I actually did board one Pony episode. I did some half the board on episode 23, the Cutie Mark Chronicles. I always try, there's a lot of storyboard artists out there who like to say that there's a formula to doing boards, or this is where you cut and why you cut. I don't subscribe to that. I like to approach every script I get across my desk as something entirely new and try and bring a lot of cinematic flavor to it. So if it's like you mentioned the murder on the friendship, or the
Sorry, it was murder.
Whatever.
They murdered the cake.
Yeah. You know the one. With the cake and the
mystery.
That's the one. Well, the reason I screwed that up is because it's sort of loosely based on Murder on the Orient Express.
Yep.
And we talked a lot about bringing in those sort of visual cinematic things like the James Bond sequence and the ninja sequence and the what was the other one?
There was
the silent sequence.
Yeah.
You know, those are things that we're all fans of movies and fans of visual storytelling, comic books especially for me. That's something I like to try and push in the show, and the directors and the board artists are all giant nerds just like the rest of us, so we're always trying new and different things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, and in that episode particularly, there were certain elements of the train. I mean, the outside of the train obviously had the My Little Pony kind of cutesy look to it with the hearts, but inside you had this framed portrait of an old general.
Right.
And the parlor kind of look. And
all the credit for that kind of stuff goes to the amazing artistic staff in the design room, Rid and Rebecca Dart and Phil and all those guys. I'm leaving too many people out, but they do just amazing stuff. And from a boarding standpoint, that was a bit of a difficult episode because you're really just in one location, this tiny little train car. So trying to keep it visually interesting was a real challenge. And I think Tom and Emmett and the other guys who worked on that episode did a really great job.
Well, and I should point out, too, this is something I heard behind the scenes, and I think it's kind of fun when I get to tell people this, but Tom, the boarder that you work with, is where the name of The Rock came from.
He's well aware of that now. I don't think he was aware of it when it happened, but he's aware of it now.
Well, and he's also responsible, if I'm correct, for the Star Wars ending to the end of the Return of Army.
I don't know if I'm officially allowed to comment on that. But off the record, that was a joke. It's not shot for shot. But it was just a thing, and he put it in, and no one noticed it right away, even Woody, who is a huge Star Wars fan. And, Lauren loved it when she saw it. Stayed in. There was a scene cut out where you cut to Pinkie Pie, and she just goes, burp, burp. like R2D2. That was a little too on the nose.
Well, we discussed this during the VA panel. Pinkie Pie is clearly Darth Vader, so can't really have that.
Yeah.
Well,
Darth Vader loves to party.
that's why he installed a giant party cannon on the Death Star. Yeah.
Yeah, Pinkie Pie blew up Alderaan.
Well, has there been an element that you added visually to one of the episodes, or suggested and then worked on with one of the episodes that really sticks out to you that you're really proud of in the series?
Woody and I came up with the thing with when Pinkie Pie's sad, her hair goes all straight.
That was your idea.
That was us. Yeah.
So you are, in a sense, the inventor of Pinkamena. That's what the fans call
the writer came up with the name.
No, but when she's got her hair deflated like that,
Yeah.
the fans have dubbed that Pinkamena when she's depressed.
And a lot of stuff in that episode, like the visual stuff, like the baby Spike, I put that in there, where she hatches the egg, and that's where baby Spike came from. There was designs for her parents, but incorporating them a little bit more was there, and like that whole testing sequence. Some of that stuff.
I think it's kind of interesting to think about too when you hear the script. The script is just what the characters say. I mean, you'll have.
Well, there's a bit more to it than that, and again, we have some great writers on the show. But every stage of the process, again, for my money, is you should be taking what you're given and making it, well, in the parlance of the show, 20% cooler, if not more than that. And, the board artists are really good at taking these scripts that, as good as they are, there are sequences that are maybe a little light on the visuals and really infusing it with a lot of themselves and a lot of humor. And, I think we're all cynical bastards who work on the show. But I think the reason that it connects with a lot of people is because we leave that in the boardroom. And when we have a sincere moment in the show, we don't shy away from it. We don't play it for laughs. And I think that's why it's connecting with people. We're very adamant about not, like, it can be cheesy, but it can't be smarmy or fake or winking. It's got to be true.
Mm-hmm. Is there an element to an episode when you were working with, directing the storyboarding, something you wanted to include that wasn't included? Something that, you really pushed for or really wished that could have been part of it that just wasn't?
There's always things that get cut, and we have a term that we use. It's called killing some babies. And you always have to kill some babies when you're doing a board. And basically what that means, it doesn't mean literally killing babies, people. Come on. We're not monsters. There's stuff you come up with that's great, and it's has to go for time. Like, you have to tell a story in a certain amount of time, and every once in a while, something's got to go. And if it's a great joke that doesn't serve the story, guess what? It's got to go. So you got to learn to not be in love with everything you do. So there's stuff that I've had to see go that I've really liked, but I don't remember some of them until someone else mentions it, because supervising, I've seen every step of the way of all of season 2. So, sure, there's stuff, I don't remember it.
Well, and I was going to say, too, the storyboarding process happens long, long before the episode actually airs. Mm-hmm. How long between when, obviously the writers write it first.
Right.
How long between when you guys actually put the storyboards together and when the show airs? What's that gap?
I think it really depends on when Hasbro decides to air them, because sometimes that can push it further, but if I remember correctly, I think it's roughly 6 months from when the script is started to when the show is mixed, per half hour, and they're all staggered like a week apart. So at any given time, we have like 6 to 8 board crews running, and the way we work it on a standard 22-minute episode is there's 2 board artists who split the show up, and they do it over 5 or 6 weeks.
So are you only working on one episode at a time, or do you do scenes from different episodes all the time?
So we're working on like 6 or 8 at any one time. So if one team is started on a Monday, the next team is a week along, The next team is a week further. The next team is a week further. So
But the artists are focusing only on the one episode.
only on the one
Oh, okay.
that they are assigned. Yeah.
Imagine that'd be kind of confusing otherwise.
Yeah, it's confusing for me. I have to see all of them. And it's confusing for Jason and Woody because they're not just looking at the boards, but they're looking at designs for episodes that haven't been started yet, and scripts and animation for stuff that's already done. So not only are they seeing all the stuff I'm seeing, but they're seeing every aspect of every show. So oftentimes we'll get into a meeting and they'll be like, "What am I doing here? What show was this? What episode?" And you have to remind them. So, but they do great work.
Well, and so you're the supervisor for the storyboarders right now.
Yes, sir.
Over the course of the decade you worked for Ed, Ed and Eddie, did you start off then just as a general storyboarder, or did you
Yeah.
supervise for a large portion of
I
that?
did supervise briefly, I think in third season on that. That was a bit of a different situation. I still to this day convinced I was never officially hired at AKA. I had done a board test for there, and I had a friend who was working, and I submitted the test, and I stopped in to see her, and she said, "Did you get the call? Did they phone you today?" And I'm like, "No." "Well, I think they're going to hire you. You should just be here Monday." So I showed up Monday, never got a phone call, and they just put me to work. And I think that's the secret to getting into animation. Just show up and pretend like you're supposed to be there, and you'll be fine.
And you did get paid then?
Eventually, yeah.
Okay. Well, what would you say was, for you, the best thing you learned from your experience working at Ed that you put towards your supervising at MLP?
Well,
I don't know if you can reduce it down to one idea.
it's hard,
but
I mean, Danny Antonucci was great at sort of really getting us to think about what is this cartoon about? What are you trying to say with this cartoon? And what do you want the audience to see? You know, he was one of those guys who would never skimp on quality in favor of anything else. It's like, I want to put out the best show I can. So that's something that I think I like to try and bring to my crew is just have them really, their name's going on this. Granted, it's at the end of the credits, but their name is on it, so have some pride in what you're doing and give it the best you can.
Yeah. Would you say then that you have a message-focused approach then, that you think that the show should send a message and that's what you kind of strive for?
No. There are messages in it, but I think I want to tell a good story. That's one of my passions is storytelling. I want to tell better stories, and this is the medium I've chosen to do it in, and hopefully it works for people watching it.
I think it's been working. You guys? Well, now, this is a question I often ask in interviews I do on EFR, and it's a question that I think it's kind of funny that I'm asking it here. What have you seen of the online fandom? I mean, obviously, there's a few fans here right now. They're the few.
Few?
Yes.
I haven't seen anyone yet.
No, I know. Well, they're off in the distance somewhere over there. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think there's some, online, and we've got apparently, what was that again? 750
Wow.
people watching on our live stream right now, but one of those 750 people is, I believe, a screen at Buck in Manchester, which has a few people in
Hello,
that room.
UK. It must be crazy late over there.
It's about 8 hours ahead of us. Yeah, it's crazy. So what have you seen, though? I mean, aside from this convention or this, of the things online. I mean, obviously, as a storyboarder yourself, do you get a chance to look at any of the fan artwork or?
We see a bit. We do look at a few things in the studio and pass things around, but I try to be careful to not be overly influenced by it. It's not that I don't appreciate it or I love that people enjoy doing it. It's just I have to be careful that I don't get some of that stuff and those ideas in my brain, and then we end up putting them in the show unintentionally, because there's legalities about that kind of stuff. Pony fandom's great. Like, this is amazing to me. This is the first con I've done for pony stuff, and I'm honored that you're even here to listen to me blab on. But you know, I just don't honestly have time to get super involved. Some of the other board artists have been way more involved in the fandom than I have, and two of them are over there, Sibsy and Raven.
Yeah, those two, by the way, are awesome. You guys should stand up, stand up, stand up.
Hey,
Do it.
I'm on the stage. You can stand up.
Right there. Those two are amazing.
And to be fair,
And they're so modest.
their involvement in fandom is one of the main reasons why I'm even here right now. So be sure to thank them on your way out.
Seriously. do
Or,
it.
or punch them if you think this was terrible.
The great thing is that, and Sibsy won't admit to it right now, but is that she will strangle me later for having made her do that. Yep, she's nodding. Okay, so good.
I already have a bruise on my arm from her, so
I call it a badge of honor when you're injured.
I call it abuse.
We love you guys. Well, I have then the standard question I ask in all the interviews that I call it the evil question.
Okay.
Have you heard my evil question before?
No, let's hear the evil
I call it the
question.
evil question because I always get the roll of the eyes from the person I ask it. But
Okay.
if you could have one thing from the fandom, Oh, you did the gasp with that too. That was good. I don't usually get the gasp.
Oh, okay.
I usually just get the cold glare.
All right.
Hey, if you could have something from the fandom though, that anything from
Money.
I like how this man
do
thinks.
do you even need to finish the question? No, I'm sorry. Seriously, don't give me money. Don't give me money. No. No. Seriously.
Is it really that
Seriously, you got to
easy?
take your money back. Seriously. Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. I won't take your money. I'm just joking.
Is it really that easy?
Not anywhere outside this room
Good
for me.
God. We could make bank. No, but if you could have like a work of art, well, maybe not a work of art, but a work of music. I mean, anything or for that matter, any kind of non-monetary effort by the fans. What would you have?
That's a good question.
It's also an evil question. See what I mean now?
I don't know that it's an evil question. It may be evil for them because now they're going to feel like, I should give that guy something.
They don't take much convincing.
No, that's true.
Did you see that guy there a second ago?
Only 20, really?
Is that what your dynamic with Jason is like?
Sorry?
Is that what your dynamic with Jason is like, or with the upper ups? I'm kidding.
Yeah, I have to give them money.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No, we have a good relationship.
Oh yeah.
Actually, one of the things we do in the boardroom is we have like a monthly movie night at my house, and the board crew and Jason and Woody sometimes come by and we watch terrible movies and make fun of them. Notice how I skillfully dodged your other question by changing the subject.
Have you considered going into interviewing?
As an interviewee, professional interviewee?
Yes. Apparently, you can make money doing it.
How? I got to get one of those things for my phone that just lets the cards. Is this thing in the UK going on long? Because I might be able to catch a flight. The airport's right there.
They'll just give you pounds, though. You can't spend those here.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question about the fandom. Chris, who does the modded ponies, gave me a Pinkamena today, and I got him to sign it, and that's pretty amazing. I don't know. I feel already spoiled that people would even want to come and listen to me talk. I think half of you were expecting to be able to just stay in here for the next panel, and then you're like, they're gonna kick us out, so I'll sit for 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, I think you still kind of dodged the question there a little bit.
Um,
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Well, okay. So in a minute here, we're going to start doing Q&A. So if you guys have a question, a good question, remember, good questions might get you swag. And swag is beautiful. While they're assembling, He's got.
That's a lot. I don't have enough swag for everybody.
No. Well, and you got to remember that I get all the good stuff. So, no. There we go. Well, do you need like a stand too?
No. I can MacGyver this.
There we go. All right. Dave, do we have the first question ready? All right, we'll step up to the mic.
Hi.
Hello.
I love your work. It's
Thank you
great.
very much.
I was wondering, between season 1 and season 2, what
Yes.
stylistic changes you purposefully implemented between like shots or the way you wanted to present the story, and how you guys decided on that?
That's a good question. Well, because there was no storyboard supervisor for season 1, so I guess in general maybe you could see a little bit more my influence in some of the shots. But again, the board team is so incredible that I just have to kind of show up and go, yeah, maybe make her smiling there. Okay.
Well, A-Track is going to kill me for wording it this way, but that begs the question: what was the essential difference between the season 1 and season 2 of the storyboarding process? And also, I think she deserves something.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the phrasing purposefully, I can't even say it.
I'm going to give you a good
implemented, that was
prize
great.
right away. You
There
can have
you
one of the
go.
backpacks.
There you go. What was the structural or hierarchical difference between the two seasons?
Well,
If you didn't have a board supervisor the first season,
one of the main things I requested when we started season 2 was that we have more of the board team in-house. In season 1, we had some people who, understandably so, preferred to work at home. It's just easier for them. They have families or whatever. But I think that it's important when you're splitting up a board into 2 pieces like that the board teams communicate more. You're working on the same story, and you need to make sure that it stays cohesive. So having them in the same room, joking around, getting to know each other, and becoming this weird dysfunctional group, I think really benefited the storytelling. We have a lot of fun messing around with each other, and I think that comes through in the work.
Okay, so as you can maybe tell from looking around, people tend to like the background ponies.
Of course.
And since you guys are the ones who kind of take it from the script to the visuals, are the boarders the ones who come up with all the cool background pony designs?
Not
sometimes
really. There's a sort of library of designs that sort of get mixed and matched, as far as I understood it. And some of them, I think a lot of them, Derpy was a mistake pony, that just happened to become its own thing. That wasn't an intentional thing. The design, you guys know, we don't really design much of the background stuff. 2? Which ones? Just yell it out to me. Oh, yeah. I might have had something
There's a
to
guy
do
here
with that.
cosplayed as that, by the way.
Yeah, that guy?
The Snowflake.
Yeah,
that's what they call him.
Yeah. What do they call him?
They call him Snowflake.
Snowflake?
And there's a guy here who's cosplayed as him.
Okay, I got to see that.
Yep.
Because, Raven and Jason and I were in a thumbnail meeting for that, and I don't remember exactly how it came up, but I was like, it should just be a buff guy going, yeah! We're during those meetings, because it was funny to us. We must have been really tired or something. And
Wait, you get tired working on the show?
Yeah.
I thought you guys were fully awake
it's like cupcakes every day.
Oh,
And Raven did sort of like an initial design for him for the board, and then Jason, the design team did a version, and Jason kind of spiced him up a little bit. So it's a really collaborative process.
Am I the only one in here, by the way, when he said library of designs, that thought he was going to say Lyra? I think
Yes.
Okay.
Here, have a lanyard.
There you go.
Thank you for your question.
So you mentioned earlier that there's a lot of content that ends up getting cut for time.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you might be able to share with us some of the scenes that you might remember that are your favorites that got cut, and whether or not any of the fans here would be able to see any of that content in the future.
That's a question for Hasbro. A lot of those things just fall by the wayside. They're during the revision process and stuff. It's not that we're deliberately taking them out and throwing them away. It's just that stuff gets moved around and gets lost in the process. You'd have to really go and do some digging to find that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure if they have any plans to show any of that kind of stuff ever.
There was one scene specifically that I know got boarded, and that was written originally in the script for Luna Eclipsed, where and this is kind of common knowledge now too, but that where Luna goes to Rarities. And
that was a sequence. Yeah, again, that was just a really heavy episode where they went in and Rarity was working on a design for a costume, and then she was like, "Oh, princess," and sort of got a little bit overwhelmed with all of that. Again, I don't really remember specifics because there's like a whole ton of episodes after that went on. So if I think of more, I will find you and tell you.
All right.
Here, have a lanyard. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
My question is, what do you think is the hardest part from when you get the script and you get the director's notes? What do you think is the hardest part when you're translating that to the actual storyboards and the animation in terms of incorporating what they say and turning that into storyboards and animation?
Sometimes just the language they use, and I don't mean like curses or anything, but like you just want to be sure you're giving them exactly what they want. So that's another one of the roles I have, is when they have notes as I go through it with them to make sure I am specifically dealing with the issue they want. So if they want a wider scene or a truck out and here and or change this acting, one of the things I had to do in season 1 when I was doing revisions was we didn't get the voice track for one of the ponies who had a very flamboyant voice, and so that the acting in the board didn't reflect the way that voice was recorded. You'll have to forgive me, I can't remember her name. It's the fashionista pony.
Was that Sapphire Shores, or was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I had to go through and punch up all the acting and make it more dramatic and all that sort of stuff. So stuff like that is just making sure that they really are getting what they want, because you don't want it to come back 6-7 times. You want to punch somebody. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Yeah?
no, totally, yeah.
Here, have a lanyard. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so season 2, episode 2, there's this wonderful gag with Discord on his throne. He fills the glass with chocolate milk, drinks the glass instead of the milk,
Yeah.
then throws the milk, which is still shaped like the glass, behind him where it explodes. Brief but hilarious. Was that in the script, or did that come out in storyboarding? Who came up with it?
I think it was Tom again. Yeah, I think that was a Tom gag. Yeah, Tom comes up with, everyone comes up with good gags, but you just happen to be picking up on Tom's gags. So yes, a rock boarded that sequence. Would you like a lanyard?
How many times in the studio do you guys say, "Tom, you rock"? I just want to know.
Well, his nickname when we worked at AKA used to be Awesome Tom. I won't tell you why. It's embarrassing for him. Yes, sir.
So what are some of the differences between storyboarding for the 2-part episodes as opposed to the regular ones?
That's a good question. It just involves a lot, obviously more board artists, first of all, and it involves a lot more planning up front, like sitting down and discussing the overall arc of the episode. Like the wedding episode, of course, was a big, giant 2-parter, and we had a lot of discussions about how we're going to pull this off and where does the action ramp up. And it's just a lot more pre-prep and more discussion and making sure that this guy who's doing the opening sequence is aware that these elements in that are going to be reflected in an end sequence and come back and make sure that everyone's aware of what's going on. Does that sort of get to it?
Well, and I imagine that an episode like that, well, first of all, I think that gets some sort of prize, right?
Oh, absolutely. You can have a water bottle.
There you go. All right.
Thank you.
I imagine that an episode though like that, like the wedding episode,
Right.
must be more difficult to board because you have so many more scenes and so much more action. I imagine the busier the scenes are, the more time it takes to.
Yeah, we initially were like, there was that whole sequence with the changeling fight, and we were like, how are we gonna pull this off? It's a lot of. So we really pulled back on the amount of changelings that were in there, and then we saw it. And we're like, we need more changelings in there. So we had to put more in, and pencil miles on some of that stuff can be pretty intense. But again, I think the scene and the sequence is better for it. It looks really cool.
Well, and that episode came out absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, and if Woody was here, he could talk more about the specifics of the animation, but he's one of the main reasons why the show looks so good. He's a bit of a Flash wizard. He makes Flash do things that it's not supposed to do. And the builds that he has made for this show in particular makes it one of the best Flash animated shows I've ever seen. So give Woody a high five when you see him.
We do bro hoofs in this family.
Oh, bro.
But yeah.
A high hoof.
There you go.
And, he ask him about Flash. If you have Flash-specific questions, ask Woody, because he's a genius. Yes, sir?
Yes, I would like to know, on more of a global scale, your team. You work with Hasbro and writers and down in LA and everywhere. How does that fit together? How do you work? Like, what's hard about it? What's easy? What kind of clinches you on a team when deadlines come?
Well, we're sort of insular in our department. We deal with just mostly or at least I do, mostly just the directors and the board crew. And we're kind of left out of, not purposefully, but just because we don't have the time to deal with Hasbro and stuff. So it sort of gets filtered through other production staff, and we only tend to know what we need to know to do our jobs. Because there's a lot of other stuff, honestly, that, I don't need to know. I don't need to know how Hasbro's selling in New York or whatever. That doesn't affect how I'm going to do a storyboard. So I just try and surround myself with awesomely talented people doing boards and just focus on doing the show.
Well, I imagine if you get some requests for more scenes in Manhattan, that might
Well, I mean, we always
imply
get
that-
notes. We do get notes from the network and from Hasbro, and we do take those to heart. And I mean, it's their show. We work for them, and we want to give them the product that they want. And so that's about the extent of my involvement with the network. But I know Jason and Woody have more, because they have, they're involved in conversations on the phone and everything. Thankfully, or maybe wisely on DHX's part, they don't involve me. Lanyard for you, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, so first off, I'd just like to say I'm a big fan of your work on Ponies and Nettie.
Thank you very much.
It's one of my favorite shows when I was younger.
Awesome.
And
You make
it's
me
kind
feel
of
very old.
It's kind of a generic question, but as a storyboard artist, what is your favorite pony to draw when designing storyboards?
I'm partial to Rainbow Dash. Maybe because she's nothing like me. But they all have their things that are fun to draw, to be fair. Yeah, especially when you put them in situations that is sort of outside their comfort zone. Like if you get to draw Fluttershy freaking out, that's kind of fun because it doesn't happen very often. Or you get to draw Twilight freaking out, or actually just freaking out scenes are really fun to draw, as Raven knows all too well. But yeah, I don't know, they're all fun. More often than not, I enjoy the situation that the characters are in more than the actual. It doesn't matter who it is. Lanyard for you as well? Running out of lanyards. Thank you for your question.
How does the storyboarding process change due to the different scriptwriters' writing styles?
The approach for us as storyboard artists doesn't really change how we approach the script. Basically, it's still we still go at it the same way. We still break it down the same way. There's not a huge difference in tone because they're all formatted in similar ways. I don't know if I'm quite getting at the crux of your question.
Based on the style of some of the Meriwether Williams episodes are more gag heavy and.
Yeah, to be fair, we oftentimes don't even keep track of who's writing what. We get a script and we just know we have to do it. And at least for me, I couldn't tell you who wrote what. And that's not to be That's not a slight against the writers at all. It's just a fact of the matter. I don't keep track of that.
I imagine
Sorry.
you have to focus on what you
Yeah,
gotta do,
I just have to tell the story and try and keep the style of the show consistent. So if there's, and it doesn't happen often, if at all, but if there's something that's not quite true to the heart of the story, or the series, I should say, we try and deal with that early on and iron it out. But again, the writers are great, so don't have a lot of issue with that. Thank you. Lanyard for you, sir.
So I have kind of a specific question.
Okay.
You'd mentioned that you try not to see too much of the fan work and everything
Yeah.
like that to avoid intellectual property. But have you specifically seen any of the Friendship is Witchcraft episodes? And what would be your reaction to it, since they mainly draw off of your storyboard work?
I can't say that I have. I know that other people in the storyboard room have. Raven is a big fan. So I'm sorry I haven't, but I will now.
I think that's,
Thank you.
You're all out of lanyards.
One prize left. Oh, sorry. One prize, backpack. Make it a good question, no pressure.
I will.
Okay.
Where did you get the ideas to change how the characters looked from the generation?
New question.
What?
Just kidding.
Well, that was
I'm joking.
That was more Lauren's doing, wasn't it? He was asking where the idea for changing the design for the ponies.
Yeah, I wasn't involved with it. By the time I was hired on, the look of the show had already been established.
Yeah, I think Lauren Faust actually, I know that she kind of designed and came up with the idea for the visuals and created really an animation Bible.
Yes. Yeah, we had there was a document of designs that we were given when we first started, and all that stuff was set. But since I was mean to you, you can have this backpack.
Oh.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm out of prizes now, guys. Does anyone want my water bottle?
Maybe if you
Sharpie
sign
here.
it, you could sign the water bottle.
No one wants that.
Yeah, they do.
Yes, sir.
I want one.
So my question is, why storyboard artists? Like, did you have inspiration to do it, or
I'm not good at anything else.
or did you have something else planned?
When I was, and to this day, when I was growing up, and even now, I was a big comic book fan, and I wanted to be a comic book artist, but I didn't really know how to get into that. So while I was at university doing science major stuff, I was like, this is boring. I went to film school because I had a friend there who was going and said I had a good time, and everything just sort of fell into place. And the more I got into storyboarding, I just realized I loved telling stories visually. It's not exactly comic book work, but there are a lot of similarities, and I don't know, that's just what it worked for me. It tickles that itch. It's a challenge to take words and make them pictures and have it still retain the meaning. So
I got a follow-up question for that.
Okay.
Because you mentioned that it's not exactly a comic book, but when you look at the storyboards, it kind of has that same kind of like panel type feel to it. Have you considered creating a comic of your own, or have you done so and we just don't know?
Of ponies or just in general?
In general.
I've done some covers for comics. I did a guest strip for Katie Cook's webcomic Gronk. I'm wearing her shirt today, and Katie's the person who's going to be writing the My Little Pony comic.
Oh, yeah.
She's great. If there's, she's going to do a great job just because she's a crazy pony fan. So I would love to do more comic work. It's just I don't always have the time for it, and comics pays crappy. What? Sorry, what? Thank you. Sorry, I don't have any
before
more
this
comments.
guy starts speaking, this is Jack, and he's been helping us with
I've
our
met
filming.
Jack.
He's
operator.
Live
stream operator.
Yeah, for the guys who have been watching on the live stream, he's been operating the main camera. So, not only that, it gets better. He's from Vancouver too.
He is, and actually Jack came to meet us when we were all at AKA working on Ed, Edd n Eddy back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Correct. And that's where I want to start. In Ed, Edd n Eddy, you start with traditional animation, and then you move to digital animation, and now My Little Pony is completely digital animation. Has the process been harder for storyboard artists with digital animation transitioning?
Not completely. We did switch over from, when I was at AKA, we did everything on paper still. And when I moved over to DHX, we were drawing on Cintiqs using Sketchbook Pro. And I was very resistant initially myself to transition because I'd only known how drawing on paper. And so just using a Cintiq was the biggest change for me. Outside of that, again, for me and the storyboard crew, we still approach it as if it was a traditionally drawn. It's still drawn, it's still hand drawn, just happens to be digital. So that's about the only difference for me.
Right.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks.
No. Look at that.
You're gonna get me in trouble, Jack.
Jack, if you see me scurrying around, picking those up, don't worry about it. And if it doesn't get back to you, no. We'll get in a minute. I think we got time for, one or two more questions, and then we're going to have to start clearing the room and such. But
is there anything in the writing that really kind of gets to be a pain to a storyboard and whatnot? And then is also there anything in the storyboard that gets to be a pain to
Sure.
animate?
I mean, sometimes it doesn't matter. It's like any job. There are pitfalls. But the one thing that we, as artists, always get frustrated on, doesn't matter the project, is if the writer has written various scenes of something happening, and it just means that you have to fill in that time. And that's not really their fault. They have a larger story to tell.
Is that mic? Did the mic turn off? Nope.
What about like specific effects and stuff like that? Maybe like the Flash animators really hate having to do.
Oh no, I don't even care about them. I'm kidding. No, the main thing is just sometimes we're limited by the scope of things. Like, if I always make a joke of like, and you're reading in a script, and then an army of 10,000 soldiers comes over a hill, and you're like, well, it can maybe be 6 soldiers. So it's just that kind of stuff. Again, we have such an amazing team that we've given them some pretty crazy stuff where we're like, I don't know if they'll do this. And it comes back and it's better than what we've given them. It's like, wow, okay, we'll give them something crazier next time.
It's a slippery slope, isn't it?
But yeah, again, the writing and stuff, if there's ever an issue, which there very rarely is, we just work through it. That's our job. We're here to solve problems and make a good show, just like everyone else involved. Thanks.
All right, our last question of the panel. Make
So,
it good.
You've mentioned before that you have to play your role in making the show.
Yes.
You have to make it so satisfy Hasbro.
Mhm.
Now, let's say you have 100% creative control all the time in the world and all the resources. How would it look different?
If I didn't have to answer to anybody, is that what you're
Pretty
saying?
much. You just they can say what they want, but you can do whatever you wanted.
I don't know that anyone would watch that show.
I would.
No, it would probably be a pretty weird show.
Based off
It'd be a really weird show.
sure, maybe.
That doesn't mean it would be inappropriate. It'd probably be inappropriate. It would probably be crazier and people wouldn't like it. Yeah, I think that's basically because you don't want to live in my head. It's weird up there. Yeah, I don't know. I think the show strikes a nice balance between the humor and the sincerity of the feelings and like the characters. And if it wasn't the way it is, it wouldn't be the show that you guys like. So why would you want to live in that world?
Well, and I would actually just say that, from having met you and having met Sibsy and Raven and, talked to Jason and I talked to Woody, that I think that little spark of craziness there adds something to the show, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, we're all certifiable, but...
I think you kind of have to be to do that kind of
yeah,
job.
well, you got to be crazy to get into this business in the first place.
Well, everybody, I think we got to wrap this up real quick.
Thank you so much for coming.
Round of applause. And before we completely go, I think we need at least one more round of applause for Sibsy and Raven over here because they're amazing.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of the con.
All right, and like I said, if everybody can start clearing out, that'd be great. Thank you.
Whose money is this? Come take this back before I get in trouble.